1287, the Mongolian Golden Horde launches a major campaign against the Kingdom of Poland. This would be the third time a Mongol army invaded the country. The Poles knew well they were facing a formidable opponent, commanded by two capable and experienced military leaders, Nogai Khan and Talabuga Khan. The Golden Horde's army divided and entered Poland via two attack points. For many of the Poles, they had little option but to hole up within the country's fortresses. However, Duke Leszek the Black would muster an army and confront the Golden Horde. Meanwhile, Leszek would appeal to his neighbor, the King of Hungary, for help. Hungary would respond, and soon a coalition Polish-Hungarian force would stand against the Mongols, bolstered by the courageous Hungarian commander, George of Sóvár. Today, on Real Crusades History, where we don't just do Crusades history, we'll delve into yet another fascinating campaign in the history of the monumental Mongol invasions, the Third Mongol Invasion of Poland. In 1287, Talabuga, a descendant of Genghis Khan, became Khan of the Mongolian Golden Horde, one of the successor states to emerge after the breakup of the original Mongol Empire. Talabuga was essentially the rightful heir to the throne, representing the senior branch of the line of his great-grandfather, Batu Khan. Talabuga ruled alongside his kinsman, the general Nogai Khan, who during his life acted as something of a kingmaker in the Golden Horde. Recently, in 1285, Nogai and Talabuga had led the second Mongol invasion of Hungary, which had resulted in defeat for the Golden Horde. However, the two decided to once again attack Europe, this time targeting the Kingdom of Poland, according to James Chambers, to prevent the Poles from supporting the Hungarian barons. In November of 1287, Nogai ordered his Ruthenian vassals to prepare their armies for an expedition into Poland, while he and Talabuga assembled their cavalries. As a result, Nogai and Talabuga marched out at the head of a large invasion force, numbering around 30,000, composed of Mongol and Turkic cavalry, as well as some Ruthenian auxiliaries. Nogai himself devised the plan of attack. As in their previous invasion of Poland in 1259, the Golden Horde host was divided into two armies. One cavalry force, numbering around 20,000, including some Ruthenian troops, was led by Talabuga Khan and would drive toward Sandomierz in the north of Poland. Simultaneously, Nogai Khan would lead 10,000 cavalry, composed entirely of Mongols and Turks, toward Krakow. This two-pronged raid was to be conducted at lightning speed to prevent the Poles from mounting an effective defense. After plundering their respective targets and conquering Sandomierz, the two armies were to reunite north of Krakow. From here, they would loot Kielce, Jędrzejów, Mieków, and finally Krakow. Once Poland was thoroughly ravaged, the combined Mongol host would withdraw back into the territory of the Golden Horde. The Mongols did achieve surprise. The first Polish prince to march against the Mongols was Leszek II the Black, High Duke of Poland, described as King of Poland by historian William Urban. At the time, the Polish monarchy was experiencing a period of fragmentation, but according to Urban, Leszek had restored the kingdom and himself become king. Leszek was a gifted ruler and military commander. He defeated the Rus in battle, and in 1282 crushed the Sudewian Prussians during the Northern Crusades. Joined by Hungarian and Cuman allies, he'd captured Krakow in 1285. Now, during the Third Mongol invasion, he managed to assemble an army numbering as many as 15,000 men, though ultimately historians are unsure as to the size of this host. Despite his success as a warrior, Leszek's married life proved less fruitful. His wife, Gryfina of Halych, never conceived a child. In 1271, she fled to Krakow and openly accused Leszek of impotence, claiming that her marriage had never been consummated. This caused great scandal, but in 1275, with the intervention of other members of the Polish nobility, the couple were reconciled. Leszek sought treatment from the famous physician Mikołaj of Krakow. The physician's cure included eating frogs and snakes. However, Leszek and Grafina never had children, which, according to the annals of Poland, caused a great abomination for the country. Like the Hungarians, the Poles had improved many of the fortifications in their kingdom by the 1280s. Krakow now had a strongly built stone citadel and its own defensive catapults. Conversely, during the first two Mongol invasions of Poland, Krakow's walls had been made of wood. On December 7, 1287, Talabuga's army broke camp at Volodymyr. Avoiding Lublin, they attempted to cross the Vistula near Zawikost. To Talabuga's annoyance, the river was not frozen, and so he had to march south in search of a ford. After crossing the river, the Mongols laid siege to Sandomierz, but the city's defenses and garrison proved too strong. His assault repelled, Talabuga ended the siege. He dispatched raiding forces into the countryside. On December 20, while the main column of Talabuga's army was near the Holy Cross Mountains, they encountered a Polish force of unknown size, again around 15,000 at the higher estimates. This Polish force was led by Duke Leszek II the Black. Thus began the Battle of Lagów. Duke Leszek's army triumphed, and Talabuga suffered defeat. After reaching the district of Kielce, Talabuga began a retreat. By January of 1288, the Mongols had reached Lviv, where they laid camp. Meanwhile, Leszek marched his army toward Krakow to ready the defenses of the capital city. Meanwhile, Nogai Khan's forces, the southern division of the Golden Horde's army, entered Poland on Christmas Eve, 1287. They besieged Krakow. The city's stone fortifications proved resilient, and Nogai Khan decided to attempt an assault. This proved to be a disaster. The Polish defenders inflicted serious casualties on the Mongol forces, who lost several important commanders. Frustrated, Nogai Khan changed tactics. He lifted the siege and instead dispersed his forces to plunder the countryside to the north and south of Krakow. Mongol and Turkic detachments raided the villages. This resulted in several small battles between local Polish forces with the small Mongol raiding parties. Meanwhile, Nogai's troops besieged the towns of Podoliniec and Stary Sącz. After the siege of Krakow was lifted, Duke Leszek took his wife and a band of his knights and rode for Hungary to seek help from King Ladislaus IV. The Hungarians had defeated a Mongol invasion only 2 years earlier, so they were a good choice for an alliance against the Golden Horde. The Mongols devastated Podoliniec and skirmished with local Polish forces. However, they failed to capture Stary Sącz, which had strong walls and a capable garrison. Meanwhile, King Ladislaus of Hungary dispatched a force under the nobleman George of Sóvár to march to the aid of Poland. On the way, George's troops were joined by local Polish forces to form a coalition Hungarian-Polish army. George managed to surprise a Mongol force of around 1,000 near Stary Sącz. The Mongols were caught completely off guard and annihilated, their commander dying during the fight. The Battle of Stary Sącz proved to be the final major engagement of the campaign. Duke Leszek marched with his army to join forces with George of Sóvár. The plan was then to deliver a knockout blow to the Mongols. However, Nogai Khan recognized that his situation was collapsing and ordered an immediate retreat with most of his army still intact. Nogai was back in Ruthenia by January or February of 1288. The third Mongol invasion of Poland was very different from the previous two invasions, but quite similar to the 1285-86 fiasco in Hungary. The Mongols failed to take any major cities or castles and suffered serious losses in the field against Polish and Hungarian forces. As in Hungary, Poland's improved fortifications proved effective. Historian James Chambers states that, for the most part, the only towns or castles that were sacked were those that were tricked into opening their gates after being promised an amnesty by the Ruthenian auxiliaries. Also, rivalry between Nogai and Talabuga hindered their cooperation. Conversely, cooperation between the Polish and Hungarian forces allowed them to deliver an effective counterblow, which convinced Nogai to retreat. Although the invasion was a failure, it did inflict considerable damage to Poland, and the Mongols might well have achieved their goals had Nogai and Talabuga cooperated more effectively. It was a close-run victory, but undeniably a great victory for Poland and Hungary. In February of 1288, Duke Leszek expressed his gratitude to George of Sóvár by granting him a villa in Poland. Meanwhile, within a few years, Nogai and Talabuga would be engaged in civil war with one another, which, in retrospect, further helps explain the poor execution of the Third Mongol invasion of Poland. Thanks for watching. Now, check out our video on the Battle of Ain Jalut, the epic clash between the Egyptian Mamluks and the Mongols in 1260. Click on the video linked on your screen to watch now. Please give this channel a sub and click the bell to be notified for future uploads. Check out my novel of the Crusades, Why Does the Heathen Rage, linked in the description down below.